As you can see, the wheel is stuck in boot mode. When I go to check for updates, it can see that there's new firmware available for the steering wheel. The base and pedals are already at the latest firmware. When I go over to click to upgrade all, since there's no option to update the steering wheel individually on the MOZA Pit House app, I click this. I get the usual notification. It prepares. The pedals are already updated. The wheel is preparing, and now it's disconnected. You can see it's still flashing blue. The wheelbase reboots, which disconnects the wheel again. And then once the wheelbase finishes, the steering wheel comes back online and it remains stuck in boot mode. Now I can exit the Pit House app. I can go to the offline firmware update tool, current last release version, from the website, from MOZA's website. And I click on this. I'll bring this over so it's more visible. So as you can see, the wheel is still flashing blue consistently, but the update steering icon every once in a while flickers in and out. Sometimes it stays stable, sometimes it doesn't. Regardless, when I click update steering, it begins progressing as normal. You'll notice there's a lot of timeout errors. This section usually takes a while, so it's currently timing out, not just succeeded. You see a lot of sections where it says to resend sections, lots of firmware frame loss. Lots of wait buffer verify timeout. Lots of firmware frame loss. Lots of start resend from here. There's a lot of wait buffer verify timeouts. Lots of wait flash status timeout. Lots of wait address timeout. As you see, it's progressing very slowly compared to how it should progress. When you update the wheelbase, it progresses really quickly. Whenever you try to manually update the wheel, it typically takes 15 to 20 minutes, I'd say. Sometimes shorter, sometimes longer. Lots of timeouts and frame loss. I'll upload this specific error file with my ticket submission so that you're able to view the logs and see what is happening to the wheel in real time. As you can see, the wheel is still flashing blue. If I maneuver this a little bit, you can see that the blue light on the wheelbase is still flashing. The wheelbase is connected. The wheel is presumably connected. Lots of timeouts though. This usually keeps going through until the end, and once it gets to the end, it'll show like 93 or 97% progress, and then it will try and do the second verify, which you'll see in a little bit, and it always fails the second verify. Sometimes it gets 1 or 2 of the 44 or 41 verifies that it needs, but the highest I've seen it get is 4. In addition to the issues with updating, when the wheel was working and was in app mode, it would consistently have issues with the shifters disconnecting and buttons disconnecting. It would have issues with button presses not registering, and occasionally it would disconnect from the game entirely. Yeah, the RPM indicator would sometimes work, sometimes not. It would sometimes stop working in the middle of a game, either switching to a flashing purple indicator or not displaying an indicator at all. This would happen most often on games such as BeamNG. Lots of weight index timeout. Lots of weight buffer verify timeout. As you can see, the time it takes to update small portions of this, you can see the time log right there, 360.963. So it's taken almost more than 6 minutes just to update one little section, it seems. Lots and lots of firmware frame loss. The wheelbase and the pedals both update just fine using the offline tools and the online MOZA Pit House app. Anything connected with a USB updates perfectly fine. I believe somebody in a forum mentioned that some of these CS wheels have bad Bluetooth chips, or their wireless communication chips whatever part that is. Some of the wheels have disconnection issues, so possibly it's that. This wheel has only ever successfully updated the firmware once, which was, there was a similar issue that was happening when we originally bought the wheel, and it was stuck in boot mode. I have prior support ticket that I sent, that I'll put that ticket in the ticket number so that you can reference that. But the way that I was able to update the firmware was just by sitting here for hours clicking the update steering button until I got lucky and it didn't disconnect, and somehow it was able to finish verifying. And this is pretty much the same as what it looked like the last time. Again, I'll link the or I'll put the number for the old ticket number in my new ticket submission so that you can reference that data. I attached logs to that as well. As you can see, it's been almost 10 minutes and it's barely even half done. It's only at 61%. This wheel is basically brand new. It was purchased 4 or 5 months ago in December of 2022. It's been used maybe a grand total of 5 to 10 hours of actual driving time. Beyond that, we haven't really had the chance or time to use it. And this issue, getting stuck in boot mode, only happens after you try to update the firmware of the steering wheel. Until I clicked the one-click upgrade button in MOZA Pit House, it worked fine. It was in app mode and it showed that there was a firmware update. So naturally I clicked the button to update the firmware, and the issue that I showed you earlier in the video with the MOZA Pit House app, where the base reboots before the wheel is finished updating, causing it to disconnect. That issue happened. So for whatever reason, the wheelbase does not wait for the steering wheel to finish updating before it disconnects, which means that while the steering wheel is in the middle of its update, it loses connection when the wheelbase tries to reboot. This can be replicated by going into the MOZA Pit House app with the, okay, as you can see, it's trying to verify. Lots of timeout. It reached 2 verify successes. Lots of verifies, and then it stops. And you can see, second verify failed, target go app failed. And then it remains red. And it's still flashing blue. As you can see, it periodically flashes gray. Sometimes when clicking update steering, see it keeps flashing gray. Sometimes when clicking update steering and waiting for it to update and then coming back after it is updated, the update steering button will just be completely gray and will not be connected, even though the steering wheel is still flashing blue. And that is, so to give you an idea of what the setup looks like, so this is where the wheel is. The base is just behind under here. And the computer is right over here. So it's a very short path. We switched from a wireless keyboard and mouse to a wired keyboard and mouse to reduce any sort of electrical interference or wireless interference. Yeah, so as you can see, it's very close, and yeah, it just is stuck in boot mode and it's unusable. It doesn't register in the app. Yeah. So any assistance would be much appreciated. I'll have logs attached to my support ticket so that you can view all the data from this video. If you would like any additional data, don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'll have my contact information in the ticket. Thank you so much for your time, and